Hello, everybody. My name is Amanda Casper, and today I'll be discussing emotional intelligence leadership theory. What is emotional intelligence theory? In the most basic terms, the emotional intelligence theory is the ability of a person to identify, assess, and control one's own emotions, the emotions of others, and that of groups. So, emotional intelligence theory has begun to grow within not only within our nation but within the world. It's beginning to be introduced into school curriculum in the K through 12, particularly in Illinois, which is what Goleman stated on his website. The curriculum in schools is used kind of as an umbrella to cover character education, violence prevention, anti-bullying, drug prevention, and school discipline. Um, Within the school curriculum, they're they're teaching students something new pretty much as they age. So in elementary school, students are being taught to recognize and label their own emotions. In late elementary school, students are learning how to empathize with others and learn nonverbal cues to recognize emotions in others. In junior high, they're learning to analyze what creates stress and what motivates them. High school students are learning to listen and communicate so that they can resolve conflicts instead of escalating them. And the goal of these types of programs, the social and emotional learning programs within schools, is not only to reduce the problem, but to enhance the school climate and ultimately the students' academic performance. Um, During my research, I came across a part of Wilding's book that stated that previous generations generally tended to hide their emotions, and that made me think of Miranda Lambert's song, this particular quote. So in previous generations, they took a more closed approach to emotions. We take a more open approach. We're more open with our emotions, sharing and expressing our feelings. Today, people are more aware of how emotions affect people and their actions, as well as having more sympathy when people express negative emotions. One of the bonuses of this increase in awareness is the increase in recognition of mental illness. Now, conditions such as depression and anxiety have more medical merit than they used to. A brief history of the emotional intelligence theory. The 1930s saw Edward Thorndike, who described the concept of social intelligence as the ability to get along with other people. The 1940s, David Wechsler suggested that different components of intelligence are necessary to be successful in life. So it wasn't enough to just be smart. You had to have the social intelligence and different levels of intelligence as well. In the 1950s, Carl Rogers, a humanistic psychologist, described how people can build their emotional strengths. 1975, Howard Gardner was the first big name in emotional intelligence. He wrote an article titled The Shattered Mind, where he introduced the concept of multiple intelligences. 1985, Wayne Payne introduced the term emotional intelligence in his doctoral dissertation, a study of emotion, developing emotional intelligence, self-integration, relating to fear, pain, and desire. In 1987, Keith Beasley coined the term emotional quotient, or EQ, which is widely regarded as a measure of emotional intelligence. And the shortened version, EQ, is what's often used to describe emotional intelligence today. This is the first published use of the term. However, Reuven Bar-On claims to have used the term in his unpublished graduate thesis. In 1990, psychologists Peter Salovey and John Mayer published Emotional Intelligence in the Journal of Imagination, Cognition, and Personality. In 1996, Daniel Goleman, who is considered the leader in emotional intelligence, published Emotional Intelligence: Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. Emotional intelligence and how it relates to leadership and how it became a leadership theory. Within our textbook by Ruby Parker Puckett in Chapter 2, according to her, effective leaders rely on basic interpersonal skills such as communication, trustworthiness, empathy, intelligence, understanding, sharing the vision with their team, ethical conduct, goals and objectives, motivation, self-confidence, mentoring, delegating. She also states that effective leaders also have the ability to manage themselves and build good relationships in and out of the organization. Many of these skills and traits are found in emotionally intelligent people, and these were many of the traits that I found within my research. So I thought that because they lined up so well, that's how emotional intelligence and leadership came to be the emotional intelligence leadership theory. There are many different traits that make an emotionally intelligent leader, and everyone has come up with kind of their own top traits or their top pillars that drive leadership within emotionally intelligent people. So Daniel Goleman, the kind of leader of emotional intelligence theory, came up with his 5 competencies: self-awareness, self-regulation, social skill, empathy, and motivation. Self-awareness is now recognized more by the word mindfulness. It's just being aware of your thoughts, your physical feelings, your mental feelings, and being present within your situation. Self-regulation, traits and characteristics that allow an individual to remain flexible and positive in the face of stressful emotions. Just being able to be emotionally resilient and keep your cup half full. Social skills is pretty much just what it sounds like: the ability to interact in social engagement. The social skills can help you advance farther in life by helping get the job, get the promotion, meet new people. According to Wilding's book, lack of social skills can mean that someone can end up lonely, often depressed due to lack of meaningful relationships. Empathy, the ability to recognize and understand another person's emotional state. This used to be considered an innate skill or a skill that someone is born with. However, Goleman considers this to be something that can be learned. Lastly, motivation. Motivation provides the drive and energy to gain positive results and achieve your goals in the face of adversity. It is encompassing the ability to control the effect of negative emotions one may experience. So just being able to essentially control your emotions and remain positive. This quote by Theodore Roosevelt, you can be just about as happy as you make your mind up to be. I thought it was fitting because emotionally intelligent people do tend to keep that positive face on, and they don't really bring their negativity to the table. Wilding also put this quote in their book. Goleman's take on leadership. This came directly from Goleman's website, where he has a page labeled leadership, and it goes into depth on how he believes emotional intelligence relates to leadership and creates the emotional intelligence leadership theory. These are just a few key points. If a leader cannot drive their team's emotions in the right direction, nothing will work as well as it could. So if your team is feeling negative emotions, the team leader should be able to draw them into a more positive light so that more things can get done, so that their objectives can be met. Most people can recognize the mood of their leader. So in the previous situation, if the leader is also in a bad mood, it'll be hard to redirect the rest of the team. It is the leader's ability to maintain a positive mood no matter what the circumstances are. Throughout history, the leader has been the one others look to for assurance and clarity when faced with unknown situations. The leader acts as an emotional guide for the team. Nowadays, however, this isn't very accurate, though still somewhat applicable within groups, in that the leader can change the emotional charge of the room. So if again the room is filled with negative emotions, the team leader should be able to clear those negative emotions from the room and bring their topics to a more positive light. Wilding, in her book, discussed the 4 skills of emotional intelligence, which were identifying emotion, using that emotion, understanding the emotion, and managing the emotion. Within identifying the emotion, it's becoming aware of the emotion you're feeling, expressing the emotion to yourself or others, and just recognizing that the feeling is there. Using the emotion, rather than let the emotion influence your thinking, you match the emotion to the task. For example, if you're feeling particularly angry, rather than acting irrationally, one can take this emotion to the gym and run it out or lift heavy weights or whatever they do to use that emotion to their benefit. This is particularly useful for individuals or dietitians who coach individuals to overcome emotional eating. So by having their clients recognize the emotion and link it with the craving that they're having, they can begin to break that link between the food and the emotion. Understanding the emotion. Find out what the emotion means to you, what made you feel that way, and conduct a what-if analysis. This can be used to assess what's going on or what will happen in the future. Kind of like feedback analysis. Managing the emotion. By staying open to your emotion, you can integrate emotions into your thought to more intelligently reason and problem solve within the situation. Since emotions can contain information and influence your thinking, this can definitely affect a person's decision. And by being aware of the emotion and using the emotion, understanding the emotion, you can manage the emotion and use it to your benefit. Lastly, Steinbuch and Knoy, in their book, The Student EQ Edge, discovered the 4 pillars and competencies in leadership. Just being centered and grounded, having the ability to take action, having a participative management style, and being tough-minded. So if a person is centered and grounded, they are in control of themselves. They don't get irrationally angry when something goes wrong, and they have a stable mood and impulse control. Someone who is centered and grounded is also aware of their strengths and weaknesses and don't propose to know everything. In addition to being aware of their weaknesses, rather than cover them up, they surround themselves with people who can fill the gaps in their strengths. They also have the ability to balance their work and home lives. It used to be considered that good leaders were workaholics. Now it's more often considered that a good leader is able to balance everything without too much stress. If their work, stress, home life, fitness, diet, and other areas of their lives are well organized and balanced, it's also given that the workplace will be organized and balanced. The ability to take action, we kind of discussed in our what we believe a leader is. This is the ability to be a decision maker. Emotionally intelligent people take into account the ideas of others, but in the end, they are able to take the information available and given to them and make the best decision for the organization as a whole. They aren't wishy-washy, they don't go back and forth, they don't stroke their own egos. They make the decision based on what's best for the organization. Decision makers also realize that the follow-up after a decision is just as important as the decision itself. They evaluate the effectiveness of their decision through the process and learn from their mistakes, also like feedback analysis. Having a participative management style, particularly when making their decisions, as I just stated, emotionally intelligent leaders know that if their subordinates have an input and more say in the project and their ideas are actually used, they're more likely to want to see the project or the organization succeed. Emotionally intelligent leaders also have good listening and communication skills. They put people at ease rather than scare them, because when people are at ease, they are more likely to speak their minds. Most importantly, emotionally intelligent leaders give credit where credit is due and take responsibility for their mistakes. Lastly, tough-minded individuals are resilient in difficult situations. They persevere in the face of adversity and they handle pressure well. They also exhibit an air of confidence as they lead. The strengths of this theory, as taken by many of my different sources, I just chose a few key ones. Being able to manage themselves and others to complete the task at hand. An emotionally intelligent leader understands the needs of their subordinates. They guide the emotions of their team to remain positive even in difficult situations. They balance their personal lives and work lives well. They understand one's own emotions and use them to advance rather than let the emotion control them. The critiques of the emotional intelligence leadership theory were strong. An article in Entrepreneur really took the idea of emotional intelligence to a much darker level. They stated that an emotionally intelligent person can use their emotions and the emotions of others to manipulate them. The article also interviewed Adam Grant, a professor at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business, who stated that if you can control your own emotions, you can hide and mask your real feelings from people. This mastery of emotion can be used as a weapon to manipulate others, particularly those who trust you. The article also goes on to state that those who are capable of understanding and controlling their emotions are more adept at telling people what they want to hear rather than their actual opinions. Lastly, he states that the assessments are based off self-reports and self-perception and are not scientifically sound. One can even manipulate the assessments to be more or less emotionally intelligent based on how they answer the questions given. Another critic states the list of traits one must possess to be emotionally intelligent is too long and that actual intelligence, such as knowledge, memory, and problem solving, are not even on the list. They say that a leader also needs to be intelligent, otherwise it turns into the blind leading the blind situation. The article states that emotional intelligence claims the fundamental goal of leaders is to create a feel-good vibe within the organization, which I feel is definitely an under-exaggeration of emotional intelligence. This critic says that other than psychotherapy organizations, most organizations are not in the feel-good business. Lastly, this article states that the emotional intelligence requires reasoning with emotion, which is a contradiction as emotions are completely unreasonable. There are different ways to assess one's emotional intelligence. One of the two most acclaimed ones are the ESCI and the ESCIU. The ESCI measures the emotional intelligence and social competence inventory for employees given by supervisors. usually to their employees. The ESCIU measures the emotional intelligence and social competence inventory in university students, which are usually given by instructors. The ESCI and ESCIU is described as raising awareness through powerful feedback, focus on coaching and development on different capabilities, and determining the best traits and qualities of individuals and teams. It uses a frequency range from never to consistently to determine the emotional intelligence in different situations. If you'd like, here's an online emotional intelligence free EQ quiz to determine your own emotional intelligence. If you do take this quiz, how accurate do you believe this assessment is? Do you feel as if you might have been biased in the assessment? And can you see the critic's viewpoint when it comes to emotional intelligence assessment? Here are my references. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Thank you.